I say, because if I do die, I'm gonna ask the Lord, let me haunt you.
We so often hear about those that don't make it out of danger alive. But what about those that do?
My body got warm and it just said, get up. You're not done, get up.
I'm Caitlin Van Mall, back with a brand new season of I Survived.
The more I begged him, the happier and the more excited he got.
Join me for new episodes of I Survived every Monday, and subscribe now wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 302 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Very well.
Good.
Very well, man. Great week so far.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that trend continues. We have so much out right now. On Saturday night, we dropped a new Patreon episode on Claude Dallas Jr.
Yeah.
And this was a strange case. It involves the murder of two state game wardens. And then this kind of very controversial view of this killer. You know, some people thought that he was a guy defending his land, his right to live. And then, you know, obviously others see him as a cop killer.
Exactly.
So
just depends on what side you want, how you take it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we have a new True Crime All the Time out on John Gilbert Graham. And this is a very different type of case for us. Graham plotted to kill his mother for life insurance purposes, but he did so by putting a bomb in her luggage, and he blew up an entire plane of people.
Yeah. Killing all those other people to collect the insurance on his mom.
Yeah, which didn't work anyway.
No.
So not to give too much away, but it's out. Make sure you go listen to it. So let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Amanda Batcher.
Hey, Amanda.
Teresa Beltran.
Hey, Teresa.
Jeannie Coleman.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Heather Audette.
Hey, Heather.
Grant Peterson.
What's going on, Grant?
Kel Cloud.
Hey, Kel.
Kelsey.
What's going on, Kelsey?
Emma Layton.
Hey, Emma.
Melody Simons.
Hey, Melody.
Christina Mitchell.
Hey, Christina.
Childish Casino.
Hey, Childish.
Andrew Link.
What's going on, Andrew?
Sierra Hayes.
Hey, Sierra.
Sammy Matthews.
Thank you, Sammy.
Ashley Duncan.
There's Ashley.
Lee Searle.
Hey, Lee.
Justco.
Thanks, Jessica.
Gina Maria.
Hey, Gina.
Kat.
Hey, Kat.
Stephen Woody.
Well, there's Steven.
And Alyssa Charbonneau.
Appreciate that, Alyssa.
So we appreciate all the new support. And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Tamara Myers-White.
Hey, Tamara.
Yeah, so we appreciate the long-term support. And we had PayPal donations from Richard Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
A large donation from John Sellards.
Hey, John.
And a donation from Jennifer Shaw.
Awesome, Jennifer.
Yeah, thanks to everyone. All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I'm ready.
We're talking about the disappearance of Elijah Bear Diaz. On August 29th, 2015, Elijah Bear Diaz was dropped off at his home in El Cajon, California, by his mother. The next day, Bear was nowhere to be found, and several important items were missing from his bedroom. 7 years later, no one has seen or heard from Bear Diaz. Elijah Running Bear Diaz, also known as Bear Diaz, was born on August 19th, 1995. He was 20 years old when he went missing. Bear's parents are Leilani Thompson and Stephen Diaz. Stephen died of a heart attack in May 2016. Bear was very close with his mother. She told the Disappeared documentary team, "I don't think that Bear and I had a normal mother-son relationship. I think we were much closer. We did a lot of things together. He called me for everything. He would check in. He always wanted to know that I knew he was okay.
There's a lot of relationships like that, parent-kid relationship.
There is, and there's also probably a lot of parents hearing this and saying, I wish my son or daughter would call more often and check in, because it just depends. Some kids, once they get a little bit of independence, they don't call as much.
Right.
Some, still make that call every day. My wife talks to her mother every single day.
Yeah, see, I was the opposite. I got that certain age, I never checked in.
Yeah, I was like you.
Yeah.
I was like you. I mean, I would check in and say, how you doing? I'm not calling to say where I am or, anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't do anything like that, and my son's kind of that way. I have to really...
What goes around comes around.
Yeah, it did. It went around.
Bear has an older sister named Miranda and a younger brother named Stephen. Leilani left their father in 2000 when the kids were 6, 4, and 2. They moved from Riverside County to the Barona Indian Reservation in San Diego County. Bear is a member of the Barona tribe. Leilani married her husband Donald when Bear was 8 years old. Donald had 5 children. His son Jacob was especially close with Bear despite their large age difference. Jacob died of suicide less than a year before Bear went missing. And, it was said in all of the research that Bear was very affected by the loss. And who wouldn't be?
That's what I was getting ready to say too. Yeah, it's not surprising, right?
No, and especially, when you hear this description of how close the two were. According to the San Diego Reader, Leilani said that Bear was a young man with a big heart. She also said he wanted to help anybody he could. Those who got to know him saw he was a precious person. If he had friends who were battling health issues, he was right by their side. If they were having trouble at home, he was there for them and would take them in. Even when he was a teenager, we had so many young men coming and spending the night on our couch, and I would always call their parents and check if everything was okay before sending them home.
Man, I had a friend just like that. Did that all the time. I mean, you never knew who was going to be at his house because he just couldn't say no to anybody. And his parents were okay with that.
And, I think what you really get from these descriptions is a guy who, number one, is very caring. He obviously cared about people. He wanted to help people. If they were struggling with anything, he wanted to help out if he could. Bear Diaz was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was 6 years old. His family noticed that he was lethargic and experiencing headaches. Bear took 2 types of insulin, and he needed insulin 3 times a day.
It's kind of rough to go about that way,
It is, and I know a lot of people with type 1 diabetes, it's really tough when a very small child gets it, because that they're going to be dealing with it for the rest of their lives. It's one thing for, someone to get it in their 30s or 40s. Okay, they know that they're going to have to do this, this, and this. But to tell a 6-year-old that they're going to have to take shots 3 times a day,
it's going to be a rough go.
It is. According to the San Diego Union Tribune, Leilani said that Bear's diagnosis completely changed his life. She told Disappeared, Bear did struggle with depression. You're sick. Your friends are out running around, doing their thing. He wished things were different.
Well, you just said to be diagnosed with that at an early age is going to be impactful. And you're right. Clearly had a effect on his life.
Yeah, I mean, I got from this that maybe because of it, he wasn't allowed to do some of the things that his friends were out doing. And that can be very tough for, kids of all different ages. So, when his mother says that he struggled with depression, I could see that. But Bear tried his best to live a normal life despite his health issues. From the age of 10 to 15, he enjoyed surfing. He learned how to play guitar in high school. Bear regularly visited the doctor and stayed overnight in the hospital. Leilani said that from age 8 to 9, Bear was hospitalized 7 or 8 times for a week or longer, which affected his education. When he was 17 years old, he was in the hospital for about 5 months out of that year. His family allowed him to get his GED.
At that point, probably was the best option for him.
Bear used money from a tribal trust fund to buy a home in El Cajon, California, when he was just 18 years old. Each tribe member is given part of the tribal casino's profit each month. The money is put into a trust fund for people under 18, but adults receive a check each month. Sergeant Darren Forster from El Cajon PD told Disappeared that Bear received anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 a month. That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money, especially for anybody, but at that age.
At 18 years old. So essentially what happened was Bear had enough in his trust fund that he was able to pay cash for a house. Bear wanted to move off the reservation because it's a remote area. El Cajon is located about 20 minutes from the reservation. He had friends in the city, and it was a central location.
Well, at that age, you want to be where things are happening.
Sure. He also had several roommates living in the house with him. And like we said, right, his family said he had this big heart. He welcomed everyone in his home. Leilani told the San Diego Reader, the roommates we thought he was going to get were not the roommates who moved in. The house was full of people we did not know.
As a parent, you're like,
Yeah, you and I have talked about it before, especially once kids move out. You're not seeing them all the time. Right. You don't know who they're associating with. It's much different than when they're living under your roof, and you kind of at least see what's going on to some extent.
Kind of control it a little bit.
Even then, you don't know everything.
Right.
But once they move out and they're on their own, you don't know much at all other than what they tell you. Bear made some new friends at a local hookah lounge. You ever been to a hookah lounge?
I have not. I know you probably have, haven't you?
No, I never have. I've seen them. I've heard about them.
Yeah. But have yet to partake in a hookah.
And I don't think I would because I don't smoke. So
what is hookah?
I thought it was like a big pipe with a bunch of things coming off of it where multiple people could smoke at the same time.
Is it tobacco?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure you could fill it with other substances, but I think by and large, these hookah lounges are just different types of maybe tobacco, flavored tobacco. I don't really know, but I never been there. Bear's close friend, Jack Parcell, said that there were always people at the house and there was never a dull moment. When the hookah lounge closed, everyone went to Bear's house to hang out. His roommates worked at the hookah lounge or hung out there. So, I'm getting from this that his pad is party central.
Yeah, it's the place to be.
It's the place to go, hang out, because a lot of these people probably couldn't afford their own houses. They're young. They're not making that much money. Bear had several large TVs in his house. He also bought a number of cars, including a new Jeep. Jack Parcell told Disappeared that Bear was generous and paid for a lot of things for his friends and even random people. Bear was the type of person that would let someone spend the night at his house if they needed a place to sleep. So that seems to have carried throughout his life.
Right. Just a generous type of guy.
And would help, whoever. And you love to hear that. But here's the fear that I have with people like that is that there's always going to be someone who's looking to take advantage of them, right?
Yeah.
They're generous. They're paying for things. Okay. So number one, someone is looking to, get something out of them, or they've got something a little more criminal.
Sure.
On their mind. Well, taking it from them.
If they learn that he's receiving this money from the casino, anywhere from $80,000 to $120,000 a year. That's a big amount of money that might put a target on you.
Yeah, it could. In the final weeks of his life, Bear was struggling with some pretty serious health issues. He was also struggling to keep up with his normal social activities. By the age of 20, he had neuropathy and cataracts, and based on his wounds, he was heading towards amputation and loss of his eyesight. So we mentioned the fact that he was in and out of the hospital, often for very long extended stays. He had a lot going on. And if you kind of break down these issues that he's struggling with, you can kind of tell that they're related to his diabetes, right? Neuropathy,
right?
The eyesight, amputation. Those are all, serious risks that can come with diabetes. Bear's mother helped him with his medical care. She helped him clean his wounds, took him out to eat, and took him out for drives so that he could get out of the house. She was with him 5 to 8 hours every day.
That's a good chunk of time.
It is, but it seems as though by this point, he really needed a lot of help. His neuropathy caused sores and blisters on his feet. He had to use crutches or a wheelchair to get around. In 2019, LaLaney Thompson told East County Magazine he was about to get his foot amputated. He couldn't walk. He was in a wheelchair a few days before. And, this neuropathy, I have diabetes.
Right.
And every time I go see my specialist, the first thing she does is make me take my socks and shoes off.
Right.
She wants to check my feet. Now, luckily, I don't have type 1. I don't have to take insulin. It's controlled, using pills, but it's a big deal. She's always worried about my feet.
Making sure that everything's good.
Yeah. LaLaney also noted that Bear only weighed 110 pounds at the time of his disappearance.
Pretty skinny.
Yeah, that really is for, a 20-year-old man to weigh 110 pounds. The San Diego Union Tribune reported that Bear was feeling dispirited and frustrated because of his health issues. And I don't know who wouldn't be feeling those things and more. It sounds like he was in a constant battle against what were some very grave issues. I mean, the thought of losing one of your feet.
I mean, to be 20 years old, this is the time of your life when you're doing all this exciting stuff, but you can't because you have these health issues. Yeah.
So, depression, frustration, all of that, you would think someone like Bear would be experiencing. Bear Diaz went missing on August 29th, 2015. He was last seen at home in the 700 block of Joey Avenue in El Cajon, California. His mother dropped him off around 10 p.m. This is the last time anyone saw him. Bear was last seen wearing a gray sleeveless shirt and white shorts. He is 5'9" and 110 pounds. He has brown hair, brown eyes, and a bear claw tattoo on his inner left forearm. So you said 110 pounds, pretty skinny. Yeah, 5'9", 110, that's pretty skinny.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, this bear claw tattoo, that seems pretty distinctive. August 29th, 2015 was a Saturday. LaLaney told Disappeared that their family spent the day at a funeral, but they didn't take Bear with them because of his wounds. She said that he needed rest. She contacted Bear after the funeral, and he asked to be picked up. She said he was already agitated, but she didn't know what he was upset about. She said that the kids playing in the pool and shouting was irritating him, and he asked to be taken home. No one was home when LaLaney dropped Bear off. She told Disappeared, I went inside and I was talking with him, trying to help him hold on to what the future still had to hold. He was in a rough place at that moment, but his feet were getting better. She suggested that Bear enroll in school so he could make some new friends with common interests. He was in an agitated mood, and she said their conversation got a little heated. He was very confrontational. During this discussion, he yelled at Leilani and said she didn't understand. She told Disappeared that Bear wished he had friends that he could hang out with. He shouted at her a lot that night, so she decided to give him some time to cool off. She left around 10:30 p.m. and locked the door as she left.
I get a sense he was lonely and depressed with everything going on in his life.
Bear texted his mom at 11:19 p.m. And this is the last time that Leilani heard from her son. She texted Bear when she got home and suggested that he take some Advil and watch a movie. Bear quickly texted back, "Okay, mommy, I love you." So Leilani hoped that the next day would be better. She texted Bear that morning to ask what he wanted for lunch and asked if he was still angry with her. He didn't answer. So she drove to the house, assuming that he was still sleeping. She got there around 3:30 p.m. Bear's car was parked in the driveway. She let herself in, just like normal. She found Bear's bedroom door locked. She opened the door, but Bear wasn't in the room. She searched his bedroom, closets, bathroom. She saw that his 55-inch TV was missing. His bed was stripped, and the pillows and a blanket were on the ground. She told Disappeared, it's one thing to take off with your friends. You would maybe grab a blanket and pillow. If you were going to sleep on the couch, you would not take your TV.
Well, she's right. That's a strange thing to be missing.
Well, in a 55-inch TV, that's not really something that you carry around with you. They're kind of large.
So, like, hey, guys, wait. Let me get the 55-inch.
Let me just grab this. Bear's bed was missing the sheets and comforter. His backpack, crutches, and the money in his safe were also missing. So this safe was found open and empty. Bear's red and black backpack contained 10 days worth of medication. And it was said that he always kept his wallet inside his backpack. He tried to hide the fact that he kept money in his room, but based on his spending habits, and we kind of went through them earlier, people knew that he had cash. And I think you talked about it.
Right.
And I think this is a big thing that we're going to have to examine, as we go through this case. And it's this money. True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. Yep, while you're listening to Gibby and I talk, you're probably also driving, cleaning, exercising, or maybe even grocery shopping. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you can be doing right now. Getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy, and you could save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save nearly $700 on average. And auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy, being a homeowner, and more. So just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year, so you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at Progressive.com to join the over 29 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $698 by new customer surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2021 and May 2022. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations. Cherie Warren was a young mother looking for a fresh start. In the process of a divorce, she had moved out, found a great new job, and even found a new boyfriend. Life was looking up. But on a mild October evening, after a long day at work, Cherie said goodbye to her coworkers, left the office, and was never heard from again. All eyes quickly turned towards her estranged husband. He had a checkered past, having lured another woman into the mountains where he beat her with a tire iron. But there was another man that piqued the interest of investigators, Cherie's new boyfriend. He was a former reserve police officer with a dark history of sexual violence. The two men closest to Cherie, one swore he loved her, the other seemed not to care. But did one of them murder her? In season 3 of the hit true crime podcast Cold, host Dave Colley digs into what really happened to Cherie. Follow Cold wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, Prime members, you can binge the entire series ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today. Leilani told Disappeared that Bear had a privileged lifestyle with the money he received. He was single, didn't have many expenses, and could buy himself nice things. He kept about $7,000 in his safe. Additionally, one glove and one sandal were missing. His toothbrush, glasses, and phone charger were left behind. Leilani waited until the end of the day, on the 30th, to report Bear missing. She first went to the Lakeside Sheriff Station. Then she went to the El Cajon Sheriff Station to file a formal missing persons report. According to Disappeared, the Sheriff's Department took a report by hand and said they would file it later because Bear was an adult with money and it was not illegal for Bear to take a time out from life. And that's true. We've discussed it before. Leilani was told that over 90% of missing people turn up quickly. She thought that Bear was mad at her and left to hang out with some friends. She hoped he would come home soon. But Bear had doctor's appointments the next day. Leilani said that even if Bear left home to get away from her, he still would have gone to his appointments because he knew how important they were. She went to his chiropractor's office and the receptionist told her Bear didn't come to his appointment. She went to the location of his second appointment. He didn't show up to that one either.
Well, either these appointments really weren't that important to him as they were to her for him, or something else happened.
Well, within 48 hours, she became very concerned. She suspected that Bear had a maximum of 2 to 3 weeks of medical supplies with him. She started reaching out to as many friends as she could, and she was posting on social media. There was one last event that Leilani was hoping Bear would attend. There was an annual powwow at the Barona reservation. Bear loved attending cultural events. So his mom hoped that Bear would come to this, but he didn't show up. And at this point, he had been missing for more than a week.
So even if he's a young adult with money, just needing a break from life, maybe you start getting a little bit concerned now.
I think you do, based on Bear and what we've said about him. This is a guy who loved his mother. I mean, he talked to her every day. Why would he go an extended period of time without reaching out to her, returning texts, returning phone calls, voicemails? And then, when you start to reach out to known friends and no one has seen him, okay, that has to make you worried. But I think what makes you even more worried, if you're Leilani in this situation, on top of missing several doctor's appointments, she had to be worried because Bear was going to run out of his insulin. And we've talked about all of the issues that he was experiencing associated with his diabetes. And that's with him taking insulin. So to think that he wouldn't have it, that had to be extremely frightening for her. According to the San Diego Reader, it was not until 2 weeks later when someone else asked deputies to make a welfare check on Bear at the Joey Street house that detectives took action. The police spoke to family, friends, and acquaintances. According to the San Diego Union Tribune, Detective Mark Barber of the El Cajon PD said that they sprayed a luminol-based reagent in Bear's room but found nothing.
Well, it seems like they're taking it seriously
now. But, when I read that, I got upset. So the family reaches out to you and you do nothing.
Yeah.
But then someone not related reaches out and a welfare check is done. Now I get it. Some time has gone by and maybe that factors in. And then you get to, this luminol testing. Well, obviously we know what they're trying to do. They're trying to figure out if, there was a crime scene inside his room, if there's blood, but they don't find anything. According to the San Diego Reader, Leilani said by the time the police came to the house, it was too late because the kids who had been living in the house could have been stealing from his room and cleaning up. It was very strange that they took the bed sheets and comforter. That doesn't make sense. They also took the wrong shoe. He only had one because of his injured foot. That tells me he didn't leave willingly.
What kind of makes sense maybe why they sprayed the luminol in the bedroom, because if you're the police, you're thinking, well, why did they take the sheets and comforter? Maybe something occurred on the bed in this bedroom.
Where you have to get rid of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that does make sense. Detectives then learned that Bear's cell phone was turned off on August 30th, 2015, and it hasn't been used since. Search and rescue teams with dogs searched an area near Santa Isabel where cell tower records picked up Bear's last signal on the night he went missing, but authorities didn't find anything. There's been no activity on Bear's social media or bank accounts. He also hasn't picked up any of his tribe-issued checks since he went missing. His family knew something was wrong because it was unlike him to leave without telling anyone, or like we talked about, right? To go a long time without contacting anyone. And I would say especially his mom.
Right.
Knowing
how close
they were, the type of relationship they had.
And I also think something's wrong because if he was out there, wouldn't he want those checks? I mean, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month. That's money that you would want.
Well, I think it's something that you and I go through in a lot of these unsolved cases. What do people leave behind? What do they not, pick up? In this case, checks every month. I just feel like in every one of these cases, it's a very bad sign because, we know, like on True Crime All the Time, what horrible things people do for relatively little amounts of money.
Sure, yeah.
So, if Bear is getting $7,000 to $10,000 a month, whether he is, trying to get away from everyone for a short time or an extended period of time, to me, it doesn't matter. He's going to need that money. He's going to want that money to do whatever he's going to do or eat or live, survive.
Yeah.
Sergeant Darren Forster told Disappeared that they originally talked to Leilani about a week after Bear was reported missing. Detective Mark Barber said that Bear did not attend the annual powwow, didn't pick up his check, and it was suspicious that no one had heard from him. Leilani told Disappeared, I was trying to push the fact that Bear was, in my eyes, just about a disabled person. He couldn't walk. He couldn't drive. Someone had to pick him up. Someone had to take him somewhere. Detective Barber was assigned to the case. The police entered the house to rule out foul play. They photographed the exterior and interior, and they used a number of different sources to search for signs of a crime scene. They didn't find any signs of a struggle. And, we mentioned this 55-inch TV. We also mentioned that Bear weighed 110 pounds. It was said that he was too weak to carry the TV himself, which led police to believe someone was with him when he left.
Right.
I'm a pretty big dude.
Yeah.
And I can carry a 55-inch TV, but it's not a walk in the park. You're going to struggle with it a little bit. And I weigh way over double what Bear weighs. I think at 110 pounds, you would struggle. And that's on top of all the different health conditions
that he had.
Him not being able to walk well. It's just, that makes a lot of sense that he would not be able to carry that TV by himself.
And with the type of money that he had, why even mess with it? If it was just him, why even mess with it? Just go get yourself another TV.
Yeah, I mean, even in 2015, 55-inch TVs were not outrageously expensive.
Right.
Now you can get them for like $300. I think
you're right.
They're down pretty low. I don't know what they were in 2015, but yeah, that makes some sense as well. There were a lot of fingerprints in the house, but we mentioned it. There had also been and were a lot of people always kind of coming and going. Police started talking to family, friends, and roommates. There were 2 full-time roommates and another 2 to 5 people who occasionally slept at the house. The roommates and friends said that it was normal for Bear to leave and come back. Detective Mark Barber said that one roommate got home at 2 to 2:30 a.m. He saw that Bear's door was closed, which was normal. He assumed Bear was sleeping or watching TV in his room. He hadn't seen Bear or heard him leave. So, I get going through all the forensics, but there's so many people in and out of this house. I'm not sure, what fingerprints are going to tell you. There's going to be so many of them. Right. How do you exclude people? According to Forster, Bear had a history of depression and had left home before, usually for a week or two, to a friend's house, and then he would come home. But LeLaney told Disappeared that even if Bear was leaving town, he checked in when he got there and he didn't wander off. So I get that he had a habit of leaving to see friends or whatever, even for a week or two at a time. But I still go back to the mother-son relationship. This was a guy who checked in with his mom. And, she confirmed that. Even if he was going somewhere, if he was leaving town, he checked in with her. And now he's not doing it.
Which is so out of the norm.
The police had warrants written to collect Bear's phone and bank information. The phone record showed that at 1:29 a.m. on August 30th, Bear's phone did a data dump. The phone had to download data when he got close to a cell tower. The phone pinged off the tower at the reservation's casino. At 1:53 a.m., the phone made another data dump in the Santa Isabel area. Santa Isabel is a small, isolated town that is a gateway to the San Diego mountains, about 40 miles northeast of Bear's home. The tower there covers a 12-mile pie grid, meaning Bear's phone was somewhere in that area, but it's a pretty rural area with few houses. The phone pings were really the only significant lead. San Diego Police Department's fire helicopter assisted and searched a 1-mile circle. There were no signs of human activity. LeLaney Thompson told NBC that they hired private investigator Trish Gray to help find Bear. Gray called the disappearance highly suspicious. I don't think that's going out on a limb.
I don't think so either.
I mean, I find it highly suspicious based on the things that we've talked about. As Bear's family and friends began searching for information, they learned about another case. The day after Bear went missing, another 20-year-old man went missing in a location about 20 minutes from Bear Diaz. Skylar Peterson Tosick has been missing since August 30th, 2015. He went missing from Escondido, California. Skylar was about 5'11" and weighed 120 pounds. So, very much like Bear. Yeah. He was a thin guy.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm 5'11". If I weighed 120 pounds, what would that?
You'd be very, very thin.
Yeah.
Olivia Tosick, Skylar's mother, was watching the news and saw the story about Bear Diaz, she noticed how similar he looked to Skylar. So the two families started to wonder if the disappearances were somehow linked. Skylar worked for the county of San Diego as a caregiver for his mother's fiance, Ray Masters, who was a popular Escondido musician known as Ukulele Ray. Ray was suffering from complications of valley fever and couldn't walk. Skylar's parents separated after his mother became pregnant. Skylar lived with his mother, an extended family, in a large house in Escondido. Skylar loved music and played bass in several rock bands as a teenager. He was also a math tutor.
Like I was.
Just like you were.
Yeah.
According to the San Diego Reader, after having a bad experience with bath salts, Skylar decided to stop smoking weed and became what they referred to as a changed man. Olivia Tosick said he had gotten rid of a lot of his high school buddies. When he turned 18, he didn't want to be in the drug world.
Well, bath salts can do that to you.
Yeah, you and I have talked about it before. You know, I've heard some nasty things. Someone corrected me that it was not bath salts that made somebody eat somebody's face off.
Oh, okay.
Which I had heard that story before. They said it was something else, but
the zombie effect.
Yeah, I still think bath salts is nasty from all the different things I've heard. But it sounds like this guy, Skylar, was really trying to turn his life around or start going in a better direction.
Yeah, meet some new friends.
Yeah, I'll put it that way. You know, he didn't want to hang around his old friends who were into drugs. He wanted to, you know, get clean, stay clean, and get on with his life. But Skylar was nervous about making new friends. His mom told him that he shouldn't be afraid of talking to new people, and he should approach fellow students. On August 28th, 2015, he said he was heading out to meet two new friends. That day, Skylar took an Uber for the first time because his car was in the shop. He left home at 6 p.m. According to Cinemaholic, when his mother checked in with him that night, all was well. The next morning, Skylar reached out to his mom and apologized for not telling her his plans. He said he was with his friends, Thaddeus and Eli. The text said, "I'm with two new friends, Thaddeus and Eli. They're a little too funny." All right, so he's giving the names of these two individuals. I don't know what is meant by they're a little too funny.
Maybe he meant, hey, they're a riot, you know,
yeah,
or something like that.
You know, it's so hard with a text.
Sure.
Because you don't get the context, the way that you do if somebody said it over the phone.
Yeah, maybe he meant they're a little strange.
It may be.
You know, I mean, you just don't know.
We don't know. Olivia texted him and asked him where he was, but she didn't hear from him until he came home 2 days later. Olivia didn't know Thaddeus and Eli. She thought they might be some classmates from Palomar College, where Skylar was a student. According to the Charlie Project, Skylar came home on August 30th. His grandmother and his mother's boyfriend were home when he returned. Skylar was dirty and dusty. He said that he was climbing in the hills with Eli and Thaddeus. He said he became dehydrated and spent the night at San Pasqual Academy, which is a boarding school for foster teenagers. Skylar ate with his grandmother and Olivia's boyfriend. Olivia came in and asked Skylar to sit down and talk to her when she got back from the bathroom. 15 minutes later, he was gone. And she was very surprised that he left without saying goodbye. According to the Charlie Project, Skylar took an Uber to Wild Animal Park, but he got out of the car before he got to his destination. His Uber driver later said that they were concerned about him because of how thin he was and because he was carrying a backpack bigger than he was. Skylar talked to his father and cousin on the phone. He said he was going to take off and go camping for a while. So, I just want to dissect a little of this. He comes home grimy, dirty, dusty, and explains that he was climbing in the hills. Okay. Then he says he got dehydrated and spent the night at a boarding school for foster teenagers.
Yeah.
According to Disappeared, Olivia texted Skylar, and he didn't answer until around 8 o'clock. He said he was with Thaddeus and Eli, but there were also 2 rich girls who wanted to travel with them. They had passports and were connected. Olivia was very surprised by this text. Skylar said he was going to go with these girls and that it was spiritual fun. No drugs, Mom. According to Cinemaholic, the text said, there are 2 women with us now. They have passports and they're rich. They want me to travel with them. They want to go too. But the text ended before Skylar said where they were going.
And I wonder what he meant by they're connected.
I don't know. I'm just imagining a mother or any parent getting this text. And just like you trying to figure it out, Olivia had to be, kind of racking her brain. Number one, trying to figure out what all of this means. And then when the text ends so abruptly, they want to go to, but that location or destination is never revealed.
Yeah, or did they mean they want to go to, and he didn't put the extra O after it?
I don't know.
That's the bizarre thing.
It is. But apparently, Olivia texted Skylar over 100 times, but he never answered. She believed that a religious group had influenced him. She contacted the Escondido police on the night of the 30th. An officer took a report, but said they couldn't do much because Skylar was an adult. So Olivia started searching for her son. She learned that he left their Escondido home in an Uber and was dropped off at a stop sign just past the San Pasqual Academy off Highway 78. So this is about a 30-minute drive east of Santa Isabel, where Bear's phone was last traced. Olivia learned that Skylar went to Olivia's boyfriend and asked for a flashlight. He asked his grandma for a roll of toilet paper. He took a toothbrush, toothpaste, cell phone, charger, and blanket, but left his wallet, ID, and bank card at home. So how much sense does all of that make?
Well, it doesn't. I get you need those items if you're going to go camping, but don't you want your ID with you? Wouldn't you want your bank card with you?
Yeah, I might want to buy some beef jerky or, I don't know what I'm going to need. Flashlight, get it. You need some TP for when nature calls. And, you want to keep your teeth and your breath fresh and clean and all of that. But like you said, the wallet, the ID, the bank card, these are just things that we take with us almost every time we leave the house. There's very few times, unless I know I'm just running down to the, somewhere where I'm not buying something.
Yeah.
I'm running to pick my daughter up and it's 5 minutes away. Okay, maybe I don't take it, but that's even rare.
I feel naked without it.
Yeah. Olivia accessed Skylar's computer and learned that he met Thaddeus and Eli at their house near San Pasqual Academy to go hiking in the hills between Escondido and Ramona. Olivia drove out to this area several times. She also talked to people in the area and a school administrator. This administrator believed she gave Skylar water on the afternoon of August 29th, and she found him asleep in a building that night. Skylar said he was lost and dehydrated. And we mentioned that Olivia hired a private investigator to help her find Skylar. The PI knew Skylar took an Uber to San Pasqual Academy, but the PI couldn't figure out where Skylar slept on the 28th. The director found him on August 29th. She allowed Skylar to sleep there on the 29th, and Skylar was dropped off by Academy personnel on the 30th. And it was on the 30th that Skylar was dropped off near the school, his last known location. According to the Charlie Project, Skylar's family is concerned that he joined a cult. Before he went missing, he lost a significant amount of weight. He was detached and was espousing what they called questionable religious ideology. None of Skylar's close friends knew where he had gone or who Thaddeus and Eli were. And I think that's telling, right? You have close friends and they have no idea who these people are. So either you just met them and have never introduced them to, any of your friend group, or you've known them for some period of time, but are purposefully not telling your friends about them.
If that's the reason why aren't you telling them?
When Olivia Tosick saw the report about Bear Diaz, she noticed that his first name was Elijah. She wondered if there was a connection, so she called the police in El Cajon. Sergeant Darren Forster told Disappeared. On the surface, the cases look similar. Height, weight, both like to play music, and both went missing around the same time. And that together could be very suspicious. Leilani Thompson and Olivia Tosick started exchanging information and felt comforted that they were going through the same thing. But the police suspected that the similarities between the cases were coincidental. On October 17th, 2015, an unidentified body was found in the Lake Hodges area between El Cajon and Escondido. Leilani Thompson and Olivia Tosick were very concerned, but the San Diego medical examiner determined that the remains were female. And this is something that, I can't even wrap my head around. You have two mothers missing their sons. They've been searching for them. And then all of a sudden you have an unidentified body.
Yeah.
The panic, the fear, the worry that had to have been going through both of their minds. Man, I just can't imagine it. And then the relief, which is such a strange word.
Sure.
To find out that the body is identified as female.
Right. Yeah. It's not our kid.
It's not our kid, but somebody else is dead. Yeah. So, relief, I'm sure, but it's such a strange word to use.
Seems like a mixed bag of emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. In November 2015, Leilani obtained conservatorship of Bear's house. The house is now used as a search and rescue headquarters. In 2016, the family had a billboard put up in Lakeside on State Route 67 at Mapleview Street. The billboard was donated to Bear's family and was up for 6 months. On the morning of January 22nd, 2016, a team of dogs from Arizona Search, Track, and Rescue searched the area around Walker Preserve. Several teams of dogs searched the area that weekend. According to East County Magazine, in April 2017, the Bear Diaz case was featured on the show Disappeared. We've mentioned it, a number of times. Leilani Thompson said, "We are encouraged that this national focus on Bear's case will spark someone to remember any clues that might help us find him. We miss our son and won't stop looking for him until we have some answers about his disappearance. We appreciate the community's continued support." And I always think, this is such a big deal in an unsolved case, right? Can you get your information out to a larger audience? Back when America's Most Wanted was on, there was all kinds of different shows. There's a lot of true crime shows now.
There are.
And, when you're talking about the unsolved cases, people might wonder, why would the family go on there? Well, they would go on there because they're trying to reach as many people as they can.
It's exposure to the case.
Yeah. Because just like she said, we need that spark. We need someone to remember something that will help us find him.
And you want to keep it fresh in the public, right?
Yeah, I think that's important too, because of the way that the news cycle works. And unfortunately, there are so many disappearances and unsolved murders. And, you don't want your family members to get pushed down out of sight.
Yeah.
And so you're going to do everything you can to keep it, in the public eye. Bear's family does not think he is still alive. In April 2017, his grandfather, Charles Curo, told NBC7, "I'm hopeful that we can find his remains. I'm sure my daughter's holding out hope that she can find him someday." In January 2020, the reward for information was placed at $40,000. So when I said, his family doesn't think he's still alive, obviously his grandfather made that statement,
Sure.
but it sounds like he even said that his mother is still hopeful. But when you get so many years on, right? At that point, there was a couple of years, and then the reward was 5 years later. Now, as we do this episode, it's 7 years later. I mean, as time passes, doesn't at least a small part of you have to be less hopeful over time?
I think so. I think it's hard to maintain that high level of hope that you have it out of the gate.
Yeah, because number one, the person hasn't reached out to you.
Right.
We said, right? No access of bank accounts, no money, no friends have come forward saying they heard from this person. The signs all point to it not looking great. And you hate to say that, but obviously that's the truth.
Yeah, and with somebody like Bear that needs certain treatments, certain
Yes.
medication, I'm sure that the police have looked into hospitals and
Places where
pharmaceutical places.
he could have obtained. And that's an added element that we don't see in every unsolved case. He was battling a lot of health issues.
Right.
And, without his medication, I think he could potentially be in real trouble quickly. Investigators still don't know if Bear Diaz left his home voluntarily or if he was a victim of robbery, kidnapping, or, some other crimes. Bear's DNA has been entered into the NamUs database, but so far there have been no matches. LeLaney told East County Magazine in 2020, "Somebody came and picked him up and took him somewhere. I believe we'll get an answer someday. Somebody knows." And I think that's always true. Somebody knows. But is that somebody or multiple people, somebody's ever going to come forward to shed light? Because my thought is often there is no upside. There's only downside in those people coming forward because they did something they shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
And so self-preservation keeps people from coming forward.
This is just so guilt-ridden.
Yeah.
Towards the end of their lives, they say something, right?
Yeah. But, these people could have been 20 years old.
Right.
If, they did something. So
got a long haul.
That could be a very long haul. As we wrap up this episode, LeLaney told the San Diego Reader in 2021, he hasn't used his health insurance in 6 years. And his foot, if he didn't have a doctor's attention, it would have continued to eat itself and he would have wound up in the hospital. And to not access his money in 6 years, his credit card, you put this piece and that piece together and you just come up with the fact that most likely he's not alive. I would like to bring him home, lay him to rest properly. If he's out there somewhere, let's bring him home and enjoy him. But most likely we'll be laying him to rest when we find him. So this was 2021. A number of years had passed.
Sure.
Since Bear's grandfather, gave that quote to the paper. It sounds like by that point in time, listing off all the things that she did, she had come to the conclusion that none of that is good and he's most likely not alive. But even coming to that conclusion, or thought that that's what most likely, has occurred, you still want to find your loved one. You want to be able to bury them. You want to lay them to rest and have a place to go visit them and talk to them. That's important.
I think it's really important.
And so, even if you get to the point where you believe that, a person is no longer alive, you're not going to give up.
Of course not.
Searching for them and wanting to bring them home. It's just not going to happen. If you have any information, you can contact In Pursuit with John Walsh at 833-3PURSUE or submit a tip online at inpursuittips.com or contact Crime Stoppers at 888-580-8477 or submit a tip on sdcrimestoppers.org. You can also contact the El Cajon Police at 619-441-5530. Gibbs, that's it for our episode on the unsolved disappearance of Elijah Bear Diaz. As we say all the time, I mean, this is one that you'd love to see solved for his family, for his friends, for all of his loved ones, even if it's just to, know for certain what happened and to find his body and bring him home.
Yeah. Hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. We got some voicemails. You want to check those out?
Let's hear them.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Rachel Banyas. It's been a little bit since I've called and left you guys a voicemail. But I have a case suggestion. It's unsolved. There's lots of info on it, video and audio clips that you can find. And I sent you guys an email also with a few links just to get you started. But it's Jim Grimes. He is out of Linville, Tennessee. It's in Giles County. He is a local businessman that was murdered a few years ago. And they still haven't solved it. I think they're starting to look at the familial DNA to see if they can find at least a suspect or a person of interest. There's also a $1 million reward for him, which is one of the highest rewards I've ever heard of. But I thought it might be interesting for you guys to check into that since there is a lot of case info on it. All right, y'all, stay safe. Keep your own time ticking.
Well, I think she's definitely piqued our interest.
Yeah.
We'll have to look into that case. $1 million is an Australian-sized reward.
Absolutely it is.
Hi guys, it's Kerry coming from, you guessed it, across the pond. I was so excited, just finished part 1 of Jack the Ripper, and I had to call. I listened to all of the dreadful Dear Boss letters, and I was so excited. I thought we were going to get to listen to Gibby do all of his accents, reading the letters, his tremendous, terrific, perfect, spot-on accents. And what did we hear? Nothing. Just Fergie reading his letters in his completely boring American accent. What happened? What happened there? I don't know. Very disappointed. Anyway, here's on to, I guess, episode 2. Thanks for nothing. Anyway, just kidding. Stay safe and keep your own time ticking. Bye.
My British accent just wasn't on.
So what people don't know is, number one, that would have been a great idea. The problem is, there is no way that you can keep it going for the entire reading of those letters because outside of saying the word British, that's about all you can do.
What should I say? Say all I can say is British?
Yeah, because
I don't have nothing else in my repertoire.
No, because it either morphs completely
it really does.
Back to English, like American English, or it goes to Australian sometimes. It goes
some offensive.
Yeah. There's no way you could have read those letters in a British accent, but it would have been good if you could have.
I know, and I'm part British.
But if I ever need you just to say the word British, then we know we got that.
Hello, my name is Emily. I'm from Michigan. It's actually my second time leaving a voicemail because I just started binging true crime all the time on Unsolved. And this is obviously going pretty far back, but it's about the Bonnie Lee case. And you guys were talking about how a lot of people or actors are really famous for like one show or one movie. And you were trying to figure out other actors who have been in like pretty big movies or shows and known for both of them. I I instantly thought of Harrison Ford because, I mean, obviously he is more known for being Han Solo in all of the Star Wars franchise, but he also was really big as Indiana Jones. So whenever I think of him, I definitely think of both of them. I know more people are probably going to think of Star Wars, but a little bit of an older crowd would probably definitely think of both of them as him as both of them as Indiana Jones and Han Solo. Anyway, have a good one and keep your own time ticking.
I think that's a great observation.
It is. I hear they're the same person anyway.
Well, you know, they're making a new one.
I heard that, yeah.
And they're going to digitally de-age his face.
Really?
That's what, yeah, they got that technology now where they can make people look younger.
What if they can de-digitalize my face?
De-digitalize? But I don't know. I can't think of anybody else that's been in those type of blockbuster franchises.
Yeah.
Multiple. Because those two are huge.
They are huge.
No doubt about it. But that's it, buddy, for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
All month long on Pluto TV, stream the biggest Tyler Perry movies free. Watch your favorites like Medea's Witness Protection and Medea's Big Happy Family. Join Tyler Perry as he goes on a couples retreat with Sharon Leal in Why Did I Get Married? Or Idris Elba and Gabrielle Union in the Tyler Perry directed film Daddy's Little Girls. Plus, Pluto TV has hundreds of channels with thousands more movies and TV shows. Available on live and on demand. Download the free Pluto TV app on all your favorite devices and start streaming now. Pluto TV. Drop in, watch free.
How much is your time worth? Whether you're a realtor, lawyer, accountant, or even a content creator, Stamps.com gives you the chance to focus your time on what you do best. Don't waste your time mailing letters or shipping packages. Stamps is there to help. Print stamps, shipping labels, or certified mail forms in seconds. Get up to 89% off USPS, UPS, and other carriers, and schedule free package pickups all from one place. Stamps.com also makes it easy to track shipments, manage contacts, and report on how much you send and spend. Over the last 28 years, more than 4 million customers have relied on Stamps.com to make their lives easier. Don't waste time worrying about being a postage expert or standing in line to drop off letters and packages. Let Stamps.com do what they do best so you can do what you do better. Go to Stamps.com/audio to sign up for a special offer. No contract, cancel anytime. That's Stamps.com/audio.